Welcome to the Less Consulting Podcast, episode 15. Alisdair, Bach and Jeet Poptani discuss this week's London Tech Week, with the big shout being sovereign AI. Enjoy.
So, good morning, Jeet. Welcome to another edition of Less Consulting Puff Podcast. This is a very quick one, so we're going to have a little bit of a conversation around London Tech Week, which I found fascinating off the back of Sapphire Orlando and Sapphire Madrid. Very much the man of the moment, G. So what was your thoughts in general?
It was quite a good one because especially when we saw Jensen Huang and Keir Starmer starting the show, I think that was the key highlight as well. And one of the key focus was to have the sovereign AI infrastructure as well. I think we have heard a lot about the sovereign clouds, where the clients needs to make sure that the data is within the sovereign clouds as well. I think the next step when it comes to the AI as well would be to have the sovereign AI infrastructure as well. So that was one of the key highlights. But in terms of the overall theme, most of these events are focusing on the AI these days. Like wherever you go, AI is the key thing. And I think we have talked about in the other podcasts as well. And one of the key thing that I saw value this time as well was in the health tech as well. So that was one of the key one. And even from the there's one of the case study as well. And I would like people to read. It's a Harvard case study, and one of the most key use case is on therapy side of the AI as well. So that is also interesting to watch in terms of how AI will evolve in this particular space as well. And other than that, we have got robotics in the healthcare side. So that was one of the key as well. So got opportunity to speak to a lot of founders and even VCs as well. So AI seems quite promising in the health tech space.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I think my take was the UK government is moving quietly towards digital ID cards. They're keeping it quite quiet. The Minister for Tech was there. So I think they're very much driving like an AI agenda, but they're also driving very much a digital ID card agenda. So I think the big takeaway, Nvidia with Keir Starmer, that played back to what we saw with Nvidia and SAP a few weeks ago with Dual being embedded into Nvidia robots. A lot of internal investment. I think but what was interesting was SAP weren't really omnipresent. I thought that was interesting. Making a really big investment in the UK public sector at the moment. Anyway, they're doing very well in the UK public sector. I think SAP are almost saying we don't need to try. They've, like you say, they've got sovereign cloud already, sovereign G cloud, sovereign AI. They've already got, HMRC, load of central government customers are on SAP. A lot of sort of like county councils now, and the devolution of moving on to S/4HANA Public. So I think they're generally in a good space. But it's interesting. It takes me back to sort of like the 90s when I first got into SAP as an accountant, looking at Accountancy magazine and really wondering why the UK was so far behind where everyone else in Europe and the States and globally was looking at SAP and ERPs, and we were still baffling around with Sage and sort of like Tetris and sort of like lesser tech, and it almost feels like that we're always playing catch up. So I think there's a lot of inward investment in terms of AI. So I think Keir Starmer is really betting on AI, and I think the guy from Nvidia said, but within 10 years, every business in the UK would be a tech business, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But I thought it was very big on grand vision, but was really lacking in detail, other than maybe sort of like that investment in everyone's going to become a citizen developer. I think it's like something like 7 million people are going to be trained in the next 10 years in the UK to become AI developers. I just can't see that really, because whenever you see tech being discussed in Parliament, okay, they always sneer in terms of, nerdy or techie or, you know, it's always as if because we do detail and because it's complex, but it's sort of like something for other people to worry about. And what Keir Starmer is saying is that AI and tech's really going to come in to center stage in everything we do going forward. And I'm not seeing that really spoken about outside of tech.
Yeah. I mean, one of the key thing also that I observed, and again, this is my again personal opinion and observation as well, because what's happening is most of the innovation that we are looking, I think it's the work itself is happening outside sort of thing. So there were a lot of companies in London Tech event. It's just they were based outside of UK, and
Yeah,
they said, okay, whatever you want to do it, and we've got the resources to manage that. So
yeah,
I think all this needs to happen in UK. For example, I think when we are talking about Nvidia and infrastructure, I think in my view, it should be Nvidia needs to have a base in UK. There needs to have an
yeah,
operations in UK and not just something that is being shipped from US
yeah.
and like designed in US and built in China and shipped to UK. I
I,
think we need more presence in the
but
UK from these
but
big companies.
But I think we do, and they announced that. So Nvidia said they're going to build a plant in the
Yeah.
UK, but it's very much going to be like our old mates TCS in terms of, Tata come in, buy out JLR. Some manufacturing remains in the UK, some goes out to India. There's a global footprint, and I think it's about for the UK economy. Um, is AI the opportunity to retool the UK, whereby the UK economy becomes an Industry 4.0 economy and
Yes. Yeah.
it becomes a G7 global leader in terms
Yes.
of robotics and AI, or does it just mean the UK is just going to be a massive consumer? Because you cannot, and we were having this conversation earlier, you cannot compete with Southeast Asia when it comes to cost. So you have to then say, well, if Southeast Asia and Asia centrally is driving, China now is the biggest AI engine in the world. It outstrips the US in terms of AI innovation. So China, India, Asia, in terms of thought leadership, in terms of manufacturing, in terms of service, all in terms of delivery, they've got all these capabilities. How does the UK really compete? And that's where I'm struggling to come to terms with where's the differentiator?
I mean, UK has a lot of good, like amazing talent as well in terms of AI researchers and the people who are working it. I think we just need to more investments in here as well. So we need
We
more investments
well,
at every level.
oh, absolutely. But that's what we do. We're really good at stuff, but what we don't commoditize it. We built a hovercraft, we built a Harrier jump jet, we built a 105 light gun, we build all these things, we export them. Okay, but we never maximize about it. So we've got one of the biggest defense industries in the world, but in general, we build Ross. You know, it doesn't, it's about how do you connect that vision in terms of Industry 4.0, AI, robotics, and tech, and how do you commoditize that so that it starts to feed down into the UK economy? Because the UK economy is different from the German and different from India even, and
Yes.
because the UK economy does not have a rump of mid-tier organizations. So in Germany, the German economy and powerhouse is based around not SAP, Volkswagen, IBM. Yeah, they're great, but 65% of companies in Germany are mid-tier. So they've got a size and with capacity and capability to export and do R&D. UK is different. 50%, over 50% of business in the UK is small. Okay, SME. Okay, which means you don't have capacity and capability. And in my mind's eye, and I'll leave you with this thought, the thing which occurred to me was the only way in which the UK could really compete, okay, to have you might have great talent, but that talent has to sit somewhere. And ultimately, they will go and sit with global companies, not UK companies. Okay. So I was thinking in terms of the only way the UK can really scale to meet the challenge is almost to have tech cooperatives, whereby you have a different form of legal entity, which is like a cooperative where people can come together in a very federated, fractional way and bring it. So you've got a bit of security, you've got a bit of AI, you've got a bit of robot. You pull together that federated mind mold almost into like a cooperative model, because
Yeah.
otherwise your SMBs, okay, are not going to get startup funding. There's no SIG funding for this. There is if you're bigger, but there isn't if you're small.
I mean, yeah, that's the impression if you talk to the VCs and the people who are actually looking in providing the funding for these startups as well. I think there needs to be a shift in the policy as well. If
Yeah,
UK really needs to compete on this, we need to be more friendly on the innovation side of it and the overall risk appetite as well. Because yes, you're right. I think we're good at designing stuff and proving the prototype that
yeah.
it works. But when it comes to commoditized and do it at this scale, I think that's where most of the organizations that we see them move
Right.
to the other countries.
Okay, and so the process is like this, right? Um, so the UK government, public, local, and central, is a huge consumer of tech, okay,
Yeah,
and consulting, but they don't favour small consultancies. So the UK government, from a procurement perspective, a micro business is still bigger than 10 employees. Okay, that does not help startups develop and then sell into the public sector, because almost the public sector is precluding smaller organisations from popping up and starting, unless and therefore by not allowing small enterprises to service the public sector, they're chopping off all that inward investment. So ultimately, you're
yeah,
still going to get the TCSs, the Wipros, everyone
yes,
else coming in, or you've now got the new trade deal with India, whereby TCS can flip people in and out on a visa and then avoid the national insurance. You've got all these things which are absolutely stacked against UK startups in the tech, AI, robotic space. It's just, I just can't see
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
see
Yeah.
how the big vision connects to the reality on the ground. I think it's my issue.
I mean, yeah. The vision is really big, really, really broad sort of thing. But one of the other thing that I observed was the UK has started this digital innovation as well. It's the government initiatives to support the startups as well. But again, I think if we compare with the overall vision, this innovation hub that government has initiated, I think it needs to get into much more bigger. So the scale of that needs to be much bigger in size to support our vision. So that's where I think more work needs to be done to scale
Right.
the actual innovation to match our vision.
I'm going to leave with one thing, but
Yeah.
I have to say, right, as always, you've stolen the show, right, which annoys the hell out of me, to be honest, because I think your call about sovereign AI is going to be the thing today. I think that's the big shout out. I think there's one area I'm disappointed in, okay, one small area, and that's because I'm just a grumpy bastard at the moment, um, and that's data. I would love some SMBs to come along into the SAP Oracle space and say, do you know what? We've got some really great AI tooling which you could drop onto your data lakes and will tidy up your data. So I'm always going on about, and I don't care. Most of the pre-sale lizards don't understand AI data anyway, so I couldn't give a toss if I upset them. But
Yeah.
there's a thing, right? I always say AI loves dirty data. It really does. Okay. AI loves dirty data. Data fabrics are full of dirty data. It's not a problem. But what I really mean is, I really want agentic AI to be dropped on the dirty data to cleanse the dirty data so that data fabric has got better data, so that upstream our analytics is working better. That's what I'm really saying. I'm
Yes.
just
Yeah.
trying to piss people off most of the time by saying you just don't understand what you're talking about. But in this instance, I really want to see some small organizations rocking up
Yes. Yeah.
with some agentic AI to clean
Yeah.
data. That's what I want.
Yeah, I mean, I met somebody who was working in that space as well. So, like whether the data is sitting in the
Yeah,
emails or Excel sheet or in your D365 or some other databases, so you can pull all that data and
yeah,
basically the agentic. But again, it's just starting. I think we need to pilot it at the couple of times and places to
yeah.
see how it. But it will. I think that's the
Because
way ahead in terms of streamlining that prospect. And one last thing, I think before we close, I think what I'm seeing now is when we have talked a lot about the clean core and all that stuff. I think the way things are moving, the focus is to have your standardized finance, logistics, and supply processes. I think over the years we'll see more innovation on the BTP side, the AI side, the agentic AI side of it, and that's where the customers will have their competitive edge.
Do you know what? I love you dearly. If I closed my eyes, I'd think I was listening to Paul Byrne there. And we'll just agree to disagree, okay? Because Paul will tell me off if I go into a rant. So I agree. We will agree to disagree. All right. Thank you. Have a safe
Thank
flight.
you. That was
See you
great.
later,
Yes.
mate. Bye
Take care. Cheers.
bye.